Similarly, the demands of the body can be divided into three categories. The demands of tongue, the belly, and the genitals. One may observe that these three senses are physically situated in a straight line as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demands begin with the tongue. If one can restrain the demands of tongue by limiting its activities to the eating of prashadam, the urges of the belly and the genital can automatically control. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Sharira avidya jadendriya tahekal jiva phele vishaya sagare tara madhya jivatit lobhomaya sudurmati ताके जेता कठिन संसारे कृष्ण बड़ा दयामय करिबारे जीवा जाय स्वप्रसादन न दिलो भाई से अन्नामृत खाओ राधा कृष्ण गुण गाओ प्रेमिड़ा चैतन्य निताय. O Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths leading to death. Somehow or other, we have fallen into the ocean of material sense enjoyment, and all of the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to control the tongue in this world, but you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us. You have sent this nice prasadam to help us conquer the tongue. Therefore, let us take this prasadam to our full satisfaction and glorify your lordships, Sri Radha and Krishna, in love. Call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda. So this is the meaning of our prasadam prayer that we chant before taking prasadam. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur very clearly explains here that tongue is the thing that which keeps us bound in this material world. It's like you must have seen the huge ships, cargo ships. They may be like a 1 kilometer, but that ship is navigated through just 1 meter or 3 meter radar. So same way, our tongue is like a radar. Wherever it takes, that way we goes. Because rasa, everything in this world is meant for rasa, to test. People go from one end to another end. Hmm? In next para only, Prabhupada explains about that. There are 6 kinds of rasa tests, and if one is agitated by any one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the tongue. Some persons are attracted to eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semen blood and eaten in the form of dead bodies. Others are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of tongue's demands. Such eating for sense gratification, including use of extra quantities of spices like a chili and tamarind, is to be given up by Krishna conscious persons. The use of pan, betel nut, various spices used in pan making, like tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea, is indulged in to fulfill illicit demands. So here we have to understand what are the things that we need to give up to control the urge of the particular taste urge of the tongue, because that's what drags us. Jaisa anna, vaisa man. So whatever you eat, that kind of a thoughts will generate in your mind. So it's very important. Like there is one example, there was one very nice Babaji who used to give wonderful Bhagavad Katha in Radhakund. So in one of the Kartik month, he was giving his Katha in Radha Govinda Dev temple on the bank of Radha Kund. And all of a sudden, one day while he was giving class, his mind got attracted to one of the Matajis there. He immediately just got up from the Vasasan, and everyone was surprised. And he directly, straightly went to his spiritual master. And he offered his pranam and asked, "This is what happening, my Gurudev, that I'm getting attracted to some woman. And I'm ashamed for that, Because that Babaji was doing two parikramas in a day for whole Govardhan. And evening he was coming and giving class. So while he was talking to his Guru Maharaj asked other disciples, just go and check it out. No, before that he asked, okay, so any specific thing that has happened during this time with you? He said, no, nothing. I'm chanting my rounds every day. Going, I'm doing parikrama twice for the Govardhan. Then he said, where you take your prasad? Then he said, while doing parikrama at one place, there is a bhandara is going on. Someone is distributing prasadam. So every day I'm having it there only. Then immediately his Guru Maharaj asked other disciples, just go and find it out who is distributing that. So that person, the devotees, they went and they inquired about and came back. And then they told that one lady, she is sponsoring that food. Then said, who is that? What is her background? Then they told her that she is from Calcutta. She used to be a renowned prostitute. And after getting retired from her that business, she has moved to Govardhan and now she wants to get rid of all her sins. So she is distributing this prasada. Then the Guruji told him, this is what disturbing your mind. Because even though that prasad, she is offered it to the Lord and given to you, but the money that has been used for buying these ingredients has come from a sinful act. So that act has impacting on your consciousness. Then you can imagine if a sadhu is getting affected by that particular consciousness because of that food, then what's happening with us? We eat sometime without offering to their lordship, and we know most of the things we buy it from either from Costco, Walmart, where they sell meat also and all other obnoxious things. So whatever you pay, it goes to buy that things also. So it gives more impact on our consciousness. So one has to be very, very careful, because food gives a big impact on our consciousness. Then further, Prabhupada says here, if we can practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk products, and water are a proper food to offer to the Lord, as Lord Krishna himself prescribes. However, if one accepts prasadam only because of its palatable taste and thus eats too much, he also falls prey to trying to satisfy the demands of tongue. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes even while eating prasadam. If we offer palatable dishes to the deity with the intention of eating such a nice food, we are involved in trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. If we accept the invitation of a rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. In the Chaitanya Chaitamrita Antya Leela, 6th chapter, text number 227, it is stated, Jivera lalase iti utidhaya Shishnodara parayana Krishna nahi paya. The person who runs here and there seeking to gratify his palate and who is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals is unable to attain Krishna. And that's what we can see. Jivera lalase uti uti dhaya. People go from one end to another end to test different kind of food. And whoever thus engaged, Shishnodara Parayana, to satisfy the uh, tongue, Udar and Shishna, Krishna nai paya, he will not attain Krishna. Then further Prabhupada says, as stated before, the tongue, belly, and genitals are all situated in a straight line, and they fall into the same category. Lord Chaitanya has said, Bhalana khaibe ara bhalana paribe. Do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious foods. Those who suffer from disease of the stomach must be unable to control the urges of the belly. At least, according to this analysis, when we desire to eat more than necessary, we automatically create many inconveniences in life. However, if we observe fasting days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, we can restrain the demands of the belly. As far as the urges of the genitals are concerned, there are two proper and improper or legal and illicit sex. When a man is properly mature, he can marry according to the rules and regulations of the Shastras and use his genitals for begetting nice children. That is legal and religious. Otherwise, he may adopt many artificial means to satisfy the demands of the genitals, and he may not use any restraint. When one indulges in illicit sex, as defined by the Shastras, either by thinking, planning, talking about, or actually having sexual intercourse, or by satisfying the genitals by artificial means, he is caught in the clutches of Maya. These instructions apply not only to householders but also to yogis or those who are in renounced order of life. In his book Prema Vaivarta, chapter 7, Sri Jagadananda Pandit says, वैराग्य भय ग्राम्य कथा न सुनिबे काने ग्राम्य वार्ता न कहिबे यावे मिलियाने स्वप्ने न कर भाई स्त्री संभाषण गृहे स्त्री छाड़िया बाही हसिया छवन यदि चाह प्रणय राखिते गौरांग रसने छोटा हरिदासेर कथा ताहे येने माने भालना खाइबे आर भालना परिबे हृदयते राधा कृष्ण सर्वदा से विवे. My dear brother, you are in the renounced order of a life and should not listen to talk about ordinary worldly things, nor should you talk about worldly things when you meet others. Do not think of a woman, even in the dreams. You have accepted the renounced order of a life with a vow that forbids you to associate with women. If you wish to associate with the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you must always remember the incident of Chota Haridas and how he was rejected by the Lord. Do not eat luxurious dishes or dress in a fine garments, but always remain humble and serve their lordships, Shri Radha Krishna, in your heart of hearts. The conclusion is that one who can control these 6 items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals, is to be called a Swami or a Goswami. Swami means master, and Goswami means master of the go or senses. When one accepts the renounced order of life, he automatically assumes the title of Swamis. This does not mean that he is the master of his family, community, or society. He must be master of his senses. Unless one is master of his senses, he should not be called Goswami, but Godas, servant of the senses. Following in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, all Swamis and Goswamis should fully engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As opposed to this, the Godasas engaged in the service of the senses or in the service of the material world. They have no other engagement. Prahlad Maharaj has further described the Godas as Adanta Go, which refers to one whose senses are not controlled. An Adanta Go cannot become a servant of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj has said, Matirna Krishne paratah sato va mito bhipadet gruhavratanam adanta gobhir vishatam tamishram punascharvita charvananam. For those who have decided to continue their existence in this material world for the gratification of their senses, there is no chance of becoming Krishna conscious, not by personal endeavor, by instructions from others, or by joint conferences. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance, and thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chew. So here, Prabhupada has very wonderfully explained us about how one should practice thing in Krishna consciousness. If you really want to make progress in your spiritual life, then these 6 things which are unfavorable for Krishna consciousness should be controlled. And then he has explained wonderfully that starting with the questions that is asked by Parikshit Maharaj. Then he gives example of a thief and police. When thief is caught and put in a jail, again he commits. So he gives example from Srimad Bhagavatam also. Like elephant goes to the water, takes bath, comes back on the bank, takes the dirt and again puts it on the body. The same way, the people who has not developed the spiritual knowledge, they will get entangled in this karmic reaction. It's difficult for them to get rid of this uh, particular anarthas, which are based on our bodily platform of a life. And then he categorized people in 4 classes: that most intelligent, who reads scriptures and who understand that committing sins is not a good thing, so they don't do it. Then other one is that who sees the other person who has done that thing and got punished. So by seeing he learns. So that is also an intelligent person. And less intelligent is that who get caught, get punished, but still he never stops doing the activity. And foolish and rascal is that the one who again and again repeats those things. And that's why Parikshit Maharaj says that this kind of a atonement or punishment is not helpful to change ourselves. Then Prabhupada further explains, he gives the present example of a Christian people who goes on Saturdays, they confess, and again from Sunday they start sinning. So it is a Kunyara Snana. So that will not help one to come out of this bodily concept of life and karmic reaction. So what will help then? Prabhupada clearly mentions here that just by doing pious thing, you will not come over to your impious things, whatever you have committed. So better to think is that you should awaken that Krishna consciousness in your heart and get the real absolute knowledge by which you can elevate yourself from that bodily platform of life. And the most important for that one should accept the austerity in his life, tapasya. So tapasya is the main thing which will help you to control all these 6 urges. So what is this austerity? Austerity means voluntarily accepting the inconvenience of the senses. For what? That one should to come over the disease of this material anchoring. And for that, one need to follow few things. So if someone takes institutionally joins some particular institute, and according to that institute or sampradaya, they give you some rules and regulations. If someone follows that, like tapasa, brahmacharya, then mano nigraha, then indriya nigraha, dana, speaking truth, satya, then remaining pure in your habits. So all these things and performing yogasana, that will create shuchi in your life. And more simpler than that Rupa Goswami explains, is if someone is really fortunate, he will get the association of devotee. And once you get the association of devotee and follow their instruction and act upon that, then what happens? That will easily connect him with his original knowledge. That will bring him to the Krishna consciousness. And then there are 4 regular principles if someone follows. Like no illicit sex, no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling. Then that person will automatically will follow the 4 pillars of dharma. Shaucha, daya, then dama, controlling senses, and truth. This is what needed, Then how to work upon these anarthas? What are the things that we can do? That Prabhupada explains. The first thing he speaks about Vachavegam. He gives first the problem that everyone has a problem. Whenever you get chance, you like to speak. And then he gives example of a frog or toad. It just quacks and it attracts the snake, which comes and eats. So same way, people who speaks nonsensely, they waste their time and they attract the Kala Sarpa. And that Kala Sarpa eats, And that's why in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the conversation with Shukadeva Goswami and Shaunagadi Rishi, Sutta Goswami and Shaunagadi Rishi, Sutta Goswami clearly mentions there that the most important thing is that one should understand that if someone engages himself in the particular activity, like caring about the Lord, he gives a nice example that every day sun rises and he sets up. But within those time, what he does, he steals away your lifespan. Ayur harti yat kshano udyam astau chayan asau. Tasyaite yat kshano reyata uttama shloka arthaya. He is the one who, because of him, what happens? Sun rises and sets down, and he steals away your lifespan. But the person who is engaged in hearing about the Lord, that time never works upon them. So the best way to get rid of all these problems is to engage in Krishna consciousness. One should speak about Lord, one should hear about the Lord, and that will control the Vachavegam. Then Manavegam. So mind is flickering, as Arjuna says in Bhagavad Gita, that Chanchalihi Mana Krishna. And Lord says you can control that Chanchal Mana by practice of Krishna consciousness and renunciation. Renunciation from the material activities and practicing the principles of Krishna consciousness, such as Navavida Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So if someone accept those things, then definitely that will control all these anarthas. And then further Prabhupada speaks about Krodha. Krodha cannot be stopped, but that can be dovatil or used for Krishna's service, like Hanumanji and like Mahaprabhu himself, he has done in the incident of Jagai and Madhai. And then further Prabhupada explains about the jiva, the test, and he gives more importance of having a Krishna prasadam, the prasad that is offered to the Lord, which purifies our existence. It becomes sinless. So if you have that one, definitely that will control all your other vegas, like a jiva vega, udara vega, and upastha vega. So if you take everyday prasad, that will purify your consciousness. Once consciousness is purified, then automatically you will control your tendency to eat more, and simultaneously the urges of genital. So all these things happens, and then Prabhupada quotes from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhakti Vinod Thakur that how it is important to honor prasadam and things which is offered to the Lord, because they are like a nirmalya. That's the one which will purifies you. So ultimately, in conclusion, he quotes from 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, from the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, where Prahlad Maharaj clearly he explains that people whose mind, see, these 6 things one need to understand from this particular verse. It's very important, and if possible, you can by heart this verse also, where he says that Matirna Krishne Parato Satova. There are 6 things which keeps you entangled in this material world. The first thing is that Matirna Krishna. If your mind is not engaged in Krishna, Parato Satova, and mind is engaged in material activities. Mithobi Padde, that is, it always makes you to continue your existence in material life. Griha Vratana, and the people who never take up Krishna consciousness, even though they hear from others or by entering, they hear from others and they go to satsanga, but they don't take it seriously. Ani adanta govir means their senses are not controlled. That's why they are totally got entangled in the ignorant life. And what they do because of that ignorance, punascharvita charvanana, they chew what is chewed. So if someone wants to make a tangible progress in his spiritual life, then he should take these things seriously. If someone who controls this vacha, manaha, krodaha, udara, upastha, all these vegas, then definitely it's becomes very easy for him to be Krishna conscious and accept Krishna consciousness as the only path to go back home, back to God. So one has to understand the 6 things which are unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. And if you work on that, definitely it will help you to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. So do you have any question, any clarification?
Prabhuji,
Yeah, go ahead.
what is chewing of the chewed? What is that?
Chewing of the chew mean like chewing gum. You take that juice, you swallow that juice, but still you keep chewing that same thing. So in our case, chewing of the chewing means engaging ourselves in the same things which we have done in many previous lives. Like ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithunam. These 4 things are common in all human beings and all caste, creed of the human beings, even all the species of life. We have done that. But again, after getting this human form of a life, again we are engaged in the same thing. So that is Punascharvita charvanana. We are
Uh,
trying to find the pleasure in giving birth to kids, eating palatable food. See, whatever satisfaction we get by eating rasgullas, the same satisfaction is derived by the any pig or hog eating stool. Whatever satisfaction we derive by sleeping for 6 7 hours, that same satisfaction is derived by the polar bears who sleeps for 7 to 8 months. But again, after getting this human form of life, we are again trying to engage ourselves and trying to enjoy the same pleasures which our body gives. And that's because of ignorance. Adanta go bhirvi. Because we are engaged in the satisfaction of our senses.
senses.
Make sense?
Adanta Govir. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. So we'll stop here.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Vasindevach patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.